Today is a very special day on our show. We're celebrating our first birthday, and we hope that you'll join us and help us celebrate here on Fathers Are Parents Too. Welcome to our first anniversary show of Fathers Are Parents Too. It takes a lot to put together an organization and a television show and do it month after month. And the only way that we're able to do this is with the help of many dedicated volunteers. So today, in honor of our first anniversary, we have as our guests some of the people that helped to make this happen and some of the people that helped to make the Fathers' Rights and Equality Exchange the organization that it is. Today we have Paul Kinzelman, who is one of our phone volunteers, Jeff Masnaghetti, who is one of our meeting coordinators, Jeanne Gitzen, who does all of our lovely hair and makeup, and Tom McGann, who is our phone volunteer coordinator. Welcome to our first anniversary show, and thank you so much all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I think I'm going to start at the far end and just come around this way. So Tom, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you do and why you do it?
What I do is check our voicemail for folks that are looking to us for help and send it to the closest volunteer we have to call them and help them, insofar as we're able. Why I do it? Because I could have used the help way back when myself.
Okay. Jeanne?
I'm here because I enjoy doing volunteer work, and I've known you for ages, and you work so hard on this show, and I enjoy having you and everybody on the show look beautiful. I just enjoy helping out. It's a worthy cause.
Thank you. Jeff?
I'm the Bay Area coordinator, as you said. I pull together the meetings that occur in this area each month, arrange the speaker and all. And I do it because it's something that needs to be done. I feel like I have to help, I have to step in and do something.
Okay, Paul.
And I just help out calling people directly that Tom hands off to me as being one of the phone volunteers. And I do it because I like, I don't know, I look at the world, I like to think that I'll leave the world a better place because I was in it. And I like to try to fix my little corner of the world, things that are broken, and one of the things that's broken is what I'm helping out trying to fix here. So that's why I do it, and it's both rewarding and depressing, because it's rewarding because I know I'm helping, and it's depressing to find out what's really going on out there. So that's why I do it.
Well, let's talk about what it is that you're doing by asking Tom. Now, you said you checked the voicemail. Is that that's a national hotline voicemail,
Yes,
right?
national hotline for the Fathers' Rights and Equality Exchange is 1-500-4-DADS.
So
Anyone, mother, wife, girlfriend, single father, can call us if they have any questions. We have volunteers in most of the states who can answer questions both in general and about the state's laws in specific. The resources that are available, where and how we can help if we can. And if the volunteer doesn't know, they let me know, and I let my boss know, and she tells me what to tell them, how to help them.
Okay, so now do you have, on a typical day, how many calls would you say come into your hotline?
Anywhere from 2 or 3 up to about 20. It varies according to whether we've been on TV recently, in a local paper, a national magazine. Generally, I don't have to send any one volunteer more than 2 or 3 calls a week, and those are in the heavier metropolitan areas.
And is there sort of a common theme that runs to the messages that you're retrieving these voicemail messages, right? Is it typically...
Well, there are common themes, but there are 4 or 5. There's no one. The one-sidedness in how the states treat child support awards, visitation rights, who gets custody and why, what happens when the custody agreement isn't followed, And the mother runs off with the children, and the father, who has every right to see them, isn't even allowed to know where they are. And it goes on from there.
So those are sort of the overriding
There's no
concerns you're
one
finding.
problem, and there's no one easy fix.
Okay, so now when you get these calls, you send them on to a volunteer who then calls them, such
If I
as
don't handle them myself. Yeah.
such as Paul.
Right.
So Paul, what happens when you get the call or the message from Tom? And
I get it by email. It's pretty effective. So this is actually the first time I've met him. I didn't know who he was when I showed up. He emails me a phone number and a name, and I call them and leave my message, and sometimes we play phone tag, and I finally talk to them and find out in particular what's going on with them. Not that I can really do a whole lot, but I can at least be sympathetic to them, maybe give them a few ideas they haven't thought of, invite them to meetings with like-minded people that can, one guy can say, oh, I'm having this problem, it's happening to me, and somebody else can say, well, that happened to me last year, and this is what I did about it. So a lot of self-help stuff, which is kind of free. And just general ideas and commiseration. I also encourage people to be actively contacting their state representatives and congressmen, because they're the people that are supposed to be fixing the problems, and they're not. So the more energy we can have people focus on positive directions, the more chance we have of fixing what's broken.
now you've sort of a little bit, it sounds like, downplayed the just do what I can and sort of let them know that there's someone to talk to and commiserate with them. And I'm just wondering, my sense is that may actually be a very large part of the support that you're giving people. And I'm wondering, both you and Tom, if you can, because you also return calls yourself, right? And do you find that people just are amazed to know they're not alone, and just are happy to have someone say, yeah, that's too bad?
That's 75 to 90% of the job. If they're in an area where there's a meeting like Jeff's, we can refer them to the meeting for more help even. But just hearing somebody on the end of the phone that has been through what you're going through and knows what you're talking about, that you're not alone. It's not something I had access to when I was going through it, and I wish I had.
What was that like for you? I mean, did you really feel that alone? Because obviously there's an organization like this, so there's thousands of fathers going through this, and yet I think that's a common theme that you hear. They feel very isolated, and like there's no one else out there that could possibly know what they're going through.
Well, I knew there were other people out there because I'd seen my dad go through the same thing. I just didn't know how to get in touch with him. I found Free quite by accident, actually, one day, and been with him ever since.
So what's your experience been then when you're talking to these dads who are where you were those years ago?
Well, almost without exception, they're all hurting. Because without exception, they're all losing their children for some reason. We don't get the folks that are having a good time.
That's true. That's true.
Yes,
Having been through that, about the best you can do is sympathize, maybe give them a hint or two on how you managed to get around it, if you did.
And how you dealt with it, how to deal with it. Paul?
Or how you're dealing with it.
Actually, you asked about a common theme. I think the common theme that I hear is help. And interestingly enough, I'd say probably only half of the calls that I do are to fathers. The other half are to the mothers of those fathers.
Really? So the grandparents?
Yeah, grandparents or new wives or new girlfriends or relationships or whatever, because that's very distressing on a relationship for a woman to see what her husband or fiance or whatever is going through, and it can cause breakup of a relationship also. So a lot of them calling are those people. Some of them have actually worked on state representatives, I'm thinking in particular, election campaigns, and they're shocked to find out the truth of how their representative votes father hostile. So I try to do some education about at least my representative, because I know where he stands and doesn't stand, and encourage them to go after their state representative and hold them to task and find out where they stand and why they voted on certain votes.
Now you mentioned that if they're in an area local to a meeting, that you refer them to a meeting, which is, Jeff, what you do. So why don't you tell us a bit about your involvement there?
Well, like I said, I arrange speakers. I have a lot of people who suggest interesting people. We've had DAs in, we've had lawyers come and talk to us. We have a lot of people as you say, referred to us by the phone call-ins. And these people do come in feeling hurt. They come in kind of looking to see, do I even fit in here? They still come in thinking I'm different, something's wrong, that I'm being singled out, and have to get the message across to them that they're not. I have seen people come in, and when they find out that we're not going to center the meeting around their case, they're hurting so bad they can't look at the bigger picture.
Sure.
They're focusing only on themselves, because for them at this point it's a matter of pure survival. And if you're not going to focus on me, I can't afford to waste the time. And I've seen them walk out when they find out that we're not going to help them directly and only. That hurts, because we really need those people to go and communicate with our legislators and get the message across that something's happening here to me personally.
Right.
This is my story, and I'm not alone.
So they can actually use the situation they're in, not only to use it to work through their own situation, maybe in a cathartic way, but to actually help other people.
Yes.
By the example they set.
And really the only help that a lot of these people are going to get is going to come from the legislation being changed or influenced. There is no help going to come to us from the powers that are currently doing us dirt. There's really not many defenses against the forces that are out there against us.
So a united front is very important.
Right, right.
Jeanne, you have been on this show every single time I have. You have been here day in and day out, and I thank you very much for all of your efforts. And a lot of times people, especially about you, ask me, why does she do this? Because she has no real connection. You're obviously not a single father. You're not involved specifically in production, so it's truly, obviously, a labor of love of some sort. And I'm wondering, number one, if you can tell us about that, and also how you experience, you're the first person that the guests who are on the show meet, that the audience meets, when you're in the green room with them. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I've been a hairstylist for 13 years, and I really get to meet a lot of people and get to know them as their whole family. And I also, some of them get divorced, and I hear both sides of things. So I understand, from people that I've met, how difficult it can be, and especially how difficult on the children. And I feel by helping with the show, it gets a lot more information out to a lot of people who are in that situation. And by presenting it in a beautiful light and making it more attractive, I hope a lot of people get a lot of information that can really benefit them. And I appreciate you and who you are and how much work you put in to Free. It's just amazing how much of your life you do, and it's all volunteer for you. And
as it is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody here.
Yeah. So, and I'm just happy to help out. As far as, I've met so many neat people on the show. As far as the guests, it's great, and I learn a lot from them. It's been really rewarding. And most people are real comfortable when they come in. They're real happy to be here and give as much information as possible. It's really nice.
And they're also mostly really happy to see you. I have to
Yes.
say that I get a lot of positive comments from, we've had authors on the show who've done a lot of other shows, and they always talk about you and what a great job you do and just how friendly you are. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to take a break right now, and then we're going to go both to audience questions and audience comments for this special first anniversary show. We'll be right back.
I'm a dad and a member of FREE, the Father's Rights and Equality Exchange. Most dads out there would love to spend more time with their kids and to be a real part of their lives. FREE wants to change the notion that all divorced and unmarried dads are irresponsible, because most of us dads are responsible, and we're working for the chance to share the parenting. If you want to learn more, please call us at 1-500-4DADS. That's 1-500-4DADS. And remember, fathers are parents too.
Welcome back to our special first anniversary show of Fathers Are Parents Too. Today we have some of our volunteers with us, and we have some questions and comments from the audience for our volunteers. Yes?
I'd like to congratulate you on one successful year of your show. I'm disappointed the market is as small as it is, but it's growing, and I see the big problem as not getting the major media on our side. They should be in there saying some of the things you've been saying for the last year. Is there some way we can light a fire under them?
Well, I think I'm going to ask Jeff if he'd address this a bit, because he's got some involvement and has some awareness of, I think, what the organization is doing with the media, right?
Yeah, we've been trying to get media involvement, varying degrees of success. We have the media come to our annual Father's Day picnic. They'll film it and show it on the news. We release press releases on a regular basis. Whenever something comes up that deserves a press release, we don't get the same press that some of the others get. The forces against us get better press at times, it seems. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what we can do to fix that myself.
Do you think in part that's a function of what you were speaking about earlier, about having to get these dads to recognize that they need to unite and work together, rather than just being so focused on themselves? That, because I think some of the other organizations, certainly some of the women's organizations, have been so successful with the media because they really present a unified, loud, mm-hmm. And large voice. And
they've been practicing at it for a lot of years. Brent Wellman, our legislative liaison, has been heard to say that trying to organize men is like trying to herd cats. And it's about the way it seems sometimes. The men traditionally don't cry out for help very readily. They don't band together. It's difficult to get the organization that we need to be able to go in and say, look, here's a block of people, we're all hurting, we need some help. We let out individual screams, they can be ignored. If we all scream together, we might actually be heard, or if we talk sensibly at least.
Makes sense. Okay, and I think we have a follow-up comment or question.
Yes, in regards to the organization FREE, as a member, I find that a very helpful organization. But the big problem in that area seems to be the lack of equality when dealing with the government in many cases. I would think laws in that area would already be on the books, namely the Constitution and pieces of legislation such as that. So why are we having a problem in this area?
Any of you feel?
Well, the Constitution only works if you're the underdog, if you pursue it and push it. A lot of the organizations that are supposedly in the business of protecting our constitutional and personal rights are not interested because of their funding, so it comes down to money again, I'm afraid. So it depends on who's the most funded, is the one that gets all the rights at the time. And it's no different from any other time in history. For years, women have been downtrodden. For centuries, women have been downtrodden. They've had to organize, and they've done a very effective job of it. And I consider myself a feminist in that regard, but an equality feminist. Now the women have become so organized that it's politically correct to be on their side, and it's incorrect to be on the other side. And money is made when people are polarized. So it behooves the people that make money off of the system to keep the system polarized. So the problem is that there's no mediation, there's no center ground, there's no compromise, there's win-lose. It's not win-win. And that's really the problem, because people are encouraged, financially incented to play the win-lose game. And unfortunately, we all lose. I don't know who it was that I remember a quote by somebody that said, if there's inequality in the world, any place, no one is free. And that's why I'm involved.
I think that you hit home on something that one of our guests in the past has said about the family law system specifically, which is that it's set up to be win-lose because it's a legal system. And when you're dealing with families, it really shouldn't be in the adversarial system, because that is set up to be a win-lose situation, and what you really need is alternative dispute resolution, and to take family disputes or family problems out of that very binary black and white win or lose, because that isn't really what it's about at all. And there, the people who are really incented money-wise are the attorneys, and they're the ones that come out win or lose.
And they're also the ones making the laws. Unfortunately, people turn it into a war, and everyone loses, especially the kids lose, because it's very hard on them to see two people that they love warring against each other, being incented by the system and by the respective legal advisors who are in the business of supposedly advising them, when in fact they're becoming rich on the adversarial relationship which they wish to continue. So that's really the fundamental problem, is get people to compromise, each person give a little bit and come to the center. And that's not how our legal system is set up,
That's exactly
which
right.
I refuse to dignify it by calling it a justice system. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay, and on that note, we have another comment from the audience. Yes?
Hi, I've only been a member of FREE for a short time, but I'm really glad to know there's a support group out there, and I think Jeff made a real salient point about the fact that men tend to internalize their problems instead of seeking network like women do, and so I have to say women are kind of a little more advanced in that area than we are, but we're learning, and it's really great to have a group of volunteers like FREE, so that there is some kind of support group that can give us some help when we're really hurting, because it's just as devastating for men as women, maybe more so, because we tend to internalize things. I just want to thank all the volunteers for the great work they're doing out there. You've helped a lot of people. And I do have a question. What type of questions from FREE members do you get predominantly? Is there any one particular question that you hear more than others?
The main question I hear is, where can I get help for my particular situation? But the individual situations are different. And everybody is stuck in a hard place. And like I said before, about half of them are women asking for someone else, because they're not stuck in the hard place. They're seeing someone that they care about and love, whether it's their son or their relationship hurting badly, and they're trying to help him out. And he's not there because he's working, and she's trying to find some help. And a lot of them are somewhat emergencies too. And really about all we can say is a lot of them are legal type questions, and unfortunately it takes someone skilled in the legal profession to answer them. And a lot of them have to do with crossing state lines. In fact, I had a call last week from someone, let's see, it was a mother who lived here. Her son was in Georgia and had 3 of the kids, had custody of 2 of their kids. His ex had custody of 3 kids and had skipped off to Washington, taken the kids, not told them where they were going, and she was concerned that he'd never be able to see his kids again. What can she do? And she's in California, a 3rd state. So there's a lot of state line crossing stuff going on, where primarily women are moving away, and there's not, it takes a terrific amount of money to chase them down, and a lot of times fathers don't have the money to do that. So they're really kind of stuck, and there's not a lot. That's where it's kind of depressing, because, you know, what can I say other than, you know, you just have to go through the legal pursuit, and it just costs a lot of money.
Now, I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking that one difference between what you, Paul, and you, Tom, deal with in terms of questions and first interfacing with people versus what Jeff may, is that you guys are really the first line of defense, right? Because you are probably the first contact a lot of these people will have with your organization. Is that correct? Because they're calling your hotline. Whereas by the time they've come to one of your meetings, presumably they've already talked to one of the other volunteers, so it's sort of the next step. And I'm just wondering if you see a difference, you know, are the people that you guys talk to on the phone in more of a state of crisis or heightened hostility or whatever, versus have they calmed down some by the time they've gotten to you? Have they already gotten some help? Are they a little bit more focused?
Well, when I used to do the phone calls too a long time ago, and I was unable to continue doing it. but I do remember those calls, and I remember that it was not uncommon to make a call and spend an hour or more on the phone to that person, basically holding his hand. There are tears, trying to get them to focus on not themselves so much, but where the real solution is, which is in correcting the situation on the government level, getting the recognition that there's a problem here. When they come to the meetings, yes, they're much more calmed down. Usually when they make the phone calls, there's absolute crisis time. They're a day before court and they're absolutely panicking. By the time they come to the meetings, things have calmed down, and I have the benefit that the phone people don't have of having a whole bunch of people there. Some have been there for a long time, and these people can talk in little groups. I don't have to be directly involved with each and every one of them anymore, because they can network within the group after the meeting is over. Typically the meeting will go on for another half hour to an hour after the official end, just because people are talking.
Just hanging out and talking. Okay, we only have about a minute left, and I really want to sort of end on a little bit of an upbeat note here, but this is wonderful stuff, and I don't mean to downplay that, but lighten it up just a little. And Jeanne, I think you mentioned that you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the differences you see in some of the guests, you know, particularly how men react versus how the women guests react, and now I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do it.
Well, I am just amazed at how the men let me do anything they want to their hair and makeup, much more so than the women. I would think that they would be, oh, don't put anything on me. They're just like, yeah, whatever you need to do. They're just very comfortable with it.
That's great.
I find that it makes my job a lot easier. It's really nice.
Well, that is nice. And it's nice what you do, and it's nice what you are all doing, and thank you so much, and God bless you all, because you are making such a huge difference, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for being here, and join us next week on Fathers Are Parents Too.